So I never wanted to tell her how much we're gonna make until she's gonna see it. I want to surprise her and so on. But if you tell me that no, I'm making 50,000, 100,000 a year now, I want passive income. Well, shit, I want to have passive income too. Then how about that? But then I didn't have to create stuff. I didn't have to break the rules, invent new stuff. Just build something, and then you can go and get the privilege of doing that.
I ain't trying to get between you. I'm just trying to get between you.
Okay, so Yosef Martin. Does anyone call you Joseph?
No, it's all
Yosef
Yosef
Martin.
or Joe. Yeah.
Yosef Martin, founder of Boxycharm, now host of new podcast,
Liquidity and liquor.
Liquidity and Liquor, and a guest on my podcast and a friend of mine. We've known each other for 2 years now.
Something like 2 years, yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you've been to like literally almost all my events.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't even live in LA.
Well, I mean, your first event was so memorable. It was, I mean, for you guys, you just got out of the pandemic. We're in Miami. We've been out before, but you guys just started going out, and that was the first event. And I came over, and up until then, Clubhouse was just a thing that you listened to. And you only talk to people on the phone, and you got a group of friends, and it was just a click of everybody on Clubhouse, and suddenly you go and you see everyone for real. And you did that event. It was just so well put together, where we all had the badge, speaker badge, and it was moderator badge. And then we had Naval over there, and we had Chris Voss, and you just interviews panel style. Just it was the same thing what we do every night, but in real life, and it was just perfect. And meeting everybody, it was nothing but perfect. And then how are you not going to go to the next event? So I'm coming. Whenever it is, I'm coming.
Yeah, I love that. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
But recently you've gotten into the podcast space, as I've mentioned. You have so much advice. I watch your TikToks. I watch your videos, your stories, and every single one just makes me think or makes me realize that maybe I need to reconsider this, or it just confirms what I already believe. So I want to go back to your story first, because I don't know, maybe some people don't know it, but I want to start even before Boxycharm. What were you doing? Give me your story.
So I came to the U.S. right after, 2 years after I finished the military service in Israel. And I came down just to get my degree and then go back to Israel. I wanted to study business and then eventually go back to Israel and go to law school and all that, or maybe study over here law and then go over there and specialize over there. But that didn't happen. I came over here, was an international student, and I opened my first company while I was a student. And I built that so I can pay the out-of-state tuition. So I had a couple $100, and I heard of the concept of drop shipping. It's kind of like an interesting story how I got into what I got into, but I built a company called Merchandise Liquidators, and with $375. And it was kind of like a mistake. I even had a typo, and I typed merchandise with a Z, and eventually I just said, fuck it, just leave it. And then that was the foundation for everything that I am today as an entrepreneur, because before that, I wasn't the guy that would go in and sell stuff and make money. Like, I wasn't that person. I was looking for a job. I was trying to work over here. I was really trying to get something stable. But when that international students cannot work, then that's when I learned internet marketing. That's when I learned how to run a business. That's when I learned how to think. That's when I went through a bunch of iteration in that particular business. It was about, I want to say, from 2004 all the way to 2016 when I exited that business. There were quite a few years, I think, from 2004 until the end of 2012, where I've been through transformations myself as an entrepreneur. First, you figure something out, you're excited for years, you build it, then you get stagnant because you're somewhat comfortable. And then from there, something happens to you, one conversation with someone that wakes you up again. It kind of like triggered that eagerness again, that resilient to continue growing. And when that happened, that's it. You take it off. In 2012, just to give you perspective, it was kind of like stagnant until 2008 or 9, and then it was going from, say, $1 million to $2 million to $5 million to $10 million.
Is this Boxycharm?
No, that was the other business, the liquidation business.
The drop shipping?
I wasn't drop shipping. That's the whole concept how it started. But what I was doing,
got it.
I was just to give you context, I was buying and selling excess inventory from stores, from CVS, Macy's, um, uh, Sears, Walmart, all that, and I would sell it in truckloads. At first, I started flipping those deals, and I would broker them. And then eventually, I bought it and worried about selling it later. And I had warehouse space, and I had employees, and that was what built Boxycharm. Because as time passed by, I learned that makeup was probably the best category within that space, because none of my competitors was touching it really, because they're all guys, but there was just so much demand.
Yeah.
And then I ended up buying the domain wholesalecosmetics.com. And anything you would type in wholesale cosmetics, liquidation for makeup, whatever it is, you would find one of my websites. So Subscription Box in 2012 bought my product. And that's when I learned about the concept for Subscription Box. And my first question, I had a staff meeting, and I was sitting with all of them on Fridays, and we're trying to kind of like see how well we did. And if we all broke a record or something, we would go to a bar and drink, and it was fun. And one of the guys told me that they sold something to a company called Glossybox. And he told me it's Subscription Box. I said, what is that? It's like, you don't know what Subscription Box is? I said, no. That was the end of 2012. And so he explained to me. So he told me, so you want to tell me that they're buying stuff, random stuff, and they give a discovery box? And he said, well, they don't buy. They get it for free from the brands. But when brands don't want to give them stuff for free, they buy it from us because we're wholesale. We're liquidators. We sell it for pennies on the dollar. I'm like, okay, so they're getting it for free, and then how do they promote themselves? They said, well, what they do is they do it all on Instagram. I said, okay, so it's internet. It's not like traditional media. Say no more. Let me figure it out. So they're asking for free stuff. Well, that's a broken concept. Eventually, someone's going to figure out how to pay for those products and still make profit. How much do they charge? $21. Okay, that's how we started. So I learned that if I pay for products that are full size, not sample size, it's the same exact cost, pretty much like sample size for the most part. And it's actually annoying to make a sample size. It's a whole product development for a sample. So I said, well, if we'll do full size and we pay, how much does it cost to get 5 items that would sell the box with retail value that's going to be about 4 to 5 times more than what the consumer pays? It's about $10. Okay, so if we charge $21, we can cover shipping. So we find the economical concept for it, and we ran with this, and we grew. Now, to speed it up, at the end, we started 2013 as a soft launch. 2014 was kind of like when I kind of figured it out. Said, okay, now let's roll with this. So we had about 1,000 members, 1,000. When we sold the business, we were shipping, I think, 1.2 million boxes a month.
Wow.
And that was at the end of 2020, and we grossed close to 500 million in sales. And we were profitable throughout all those years. In fact, every year we were more profitable. The contribution margin was higher every time. We made more profit by percentage and obviously by numbers every year. And we're doubling ourselves every year. And when we sold the business, I sold this to my competitors, good people from Ipsy. They took it from there, and it was pretty much the best synergy.
How much did it sell for?
500 million, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we sold this for 500 million, and it was obviously a crazy time in my life, right? Just a lot of things happened. The world has changed, and like everything, COVID happened, and but eventually things can fall into place if you really believe you can do it, and you just focus on having the best product you can ever deliver. If I look at myself before I sold Boxycharm, before I got into being an entrepreneur, I enjoyed going vacations, and I had a bunch of hobbies, bunch of them. Everything vanished after I started my first business. After I had my aha moment, everything vanished. I didn't care. So today, you tell me, let's go skiing. Like, no, I don't know. I mean, I don't. That's not my thing. I don't want to ski. It's like not my. I need to sit down. I need to be intrigued with people, with opportunities.
But do you feel like you're in a stage where you're an entrepreneur right now? I mean, you are an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's in your blood. But what I'm saying is, are you going to start another business? What's the plan now?
Yeah, no, I am. I am going to start. And I have projects, right? I didn't turn them into companies yet because I feel like the more responsible thing to do is once you get that kind of cash, you have to know how to manage your cash. And all those years, I wasn't the person to look at cash. I didn't care about cash.
Did you ever think that you would get to this level? Like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, however long ago.
I always had it in my head. I always dreamt about this. I always play around building something and making ridiculous money. Always. It was something that all my life I was like that. So, but I don't know if everyone does that. I'm sure everybody does, or maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
I definitely do that.
Yeah, so, and it's something that you keep. But to tell you the truth, from the moment you actually build something that's for real, that was before Boxycharm. It's the first company that I built that's actually substantial, and your dream starts shifting towards what you're doing. So you start seeing it again and again. You start premeditating, and eventually you start. I mean, when you get to, I guess what happened in your mind versus what happened in reality is not far apart for your subconscious. It's like your subconscious have seen it in your mind, so you're not excited, or you're not worried, or you're not, I would say, concerned when you're already in a situation because you've seen it so many times. You premeditate that, and you can't tell the difference. Your subconscious can't tell the difference between reality or not. So when that things happen to you, it's like you've been there already. You've been ready for it, right? You need to build yourself up. I don't know if it's something that if you read the book Think and Grow Rich, they're talking about the fact that you have to be ready. There are opportunities, but you got to be ready for that opportunity. If you're not there, it doesn't matter if I'll hand you over an opportunity. It's not for everybody, right? So it's the same exact things. It's just you need to be in that right premeditation part.
You need to drill it into your subconscious.
Yes.
That this is how successful you're going to be, and imagine yourself in these scenarios,
Yes.
and in these situations.
Yes.
The evolution of what's going to happen, and once that's drilled in your head, you feel like that takes care of a lot.
It's kind of like a plug. It's like a puzzle for you. It's like, oh, I can do that. Oh, here's another tactic. And then once you do it, and you start seeing those numbers, and those numbers, oh, you went from, say, let's just throw numbers, okay, 100,000 to $5 million difference between grossing in a year. Okay, so now 5 million doesn't look that much exciting. Maybe 10, 15, 20, 15, right? Like you just don't make it a big deal anymore, and then you move on because you've been there. You've been there not just in your head. Now you've physically been there, but now in your head you're already a couple step up, and then you keep going forward.
I'm wondering, once you reach a certain level of success, what changes? Because all of a sudden your lifestyle is different. Like you said, money is freedom. How does that how did that change you? How have you seen money change people?
Look, thankfully I didn't change much, right? I don't really care for things, right? I don't care for shoes. I don't care for cars. I don't care for watches, glasses, hats.
Just leather jackets.
That's my own thing. But I do care about a couple things. If I travel, I care to travel nice, and pretty much that's it. I like to eat good food, and that's it. So it didn't change all that much, but you do move to a nicer house and things like that. What it does change is the people you're around and the experiences with those people, for me at least.
Give me an example.
Well, all right, then the circle that's going to be around you is going to be high net worth individuals, right? And their homes, your homes, events. Okay, this time it's going to be an event in this particular place. You get entry to places that you couldn't get before. But you can't forget that, if it hits you kind of like that, this is your image, it's a bad one. Because what happens if you lose it all? It's gonna crush you.
So don't identify with that.
Don't identify with that. Yeah, be grateful. Don't get me wrong. Be grateful. You're doing it for that reason. But just be solid. I think that's why you see a lot of youth, when they get a lot of cash right away, they eventually lose it a little bit because it hurts their identity. They feel like they're better than everybody. And I mean, I don't know if you saw Sam Bankman-Fried on one of the videos talking about their maid, and it's just a nasty way, the way he was talking about how I can buy you 300 times. Just it got to his head, right? It really got to his head, right? And I don't want to say he's young or he's evil, whatever he did, bad, okay? But in general, it happens to many people where it gets to the head, forget where they came from, and aside of the fact that they can be nasty to other people and they can hurt them, but the first person you hurt is yourself. There's so much more to life than that, and that is not your image. This is just your bank account. So, and look, I mean, I'll tell you something. The fame behind Boxycharm, when Boxycharm was as popular when I sold it, was much more than it is. Probably most listeners don't even know what Boxycharm is right now, and by the time they're gonna listen to this in a year from now, they wouldn't even know what it is because who knows where Boxy is gonna be. But at the time, it was very popular, and there's just a lot of excitement and all that. And I was getting divorced, and a lot of ladies knew what it is and all that. And very quickly, I said to myself, I can't let that be an image subconsciously. I need to be aware of that because tomorrow they'll forget about it. And I don't want to be those weirdos that says, have you heard of Boxycharm? Back then I was like that. That's the last thing you want to be. So just be mindful of that and don't let that affect your identity. Let it only affect your bank account.
Today's episode of Beyond is brought to you by MoonPay. MoonPay is your portal to Web3 where you can transact with peers globally and own your digital identity. MoonPay makes it fast and simple to jumpstart your Web3 journey. Quickly use your debit or credit card to buy and sell crypto and purchase digital collectibles. Visit moonpay.com to get started. So let me introduce Jacob Adler, who you met in my last audio episode. My conversational collaborator. I coined that term. If anybody else uses it, you know where they got it from. But I work with Jacob and we sit down and ideate a lot together. So I thought it would be cool for Jacob to chime in the conversation.
I love it.
Thanks for having me on.
Welcome to our conversation.
It's been an incredible conversation so far. I'm honored to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm curious what you were thinking about when Yosef was talking, because, you know, my mind went on like a ton of different tangents, but you're probably listening and thinking a bunch of other stuff.
First of all, great question. I actually listened to a little bit of your interview with Scott on the Success Story podcast, and you said something that was pretty fascinating to me. After the wire hit your account, you didn't really feel anything, you said. And that just kind of struck me. I mean, that's a ridiculous amount of money for anyone, really. And I was a little bit stunned you said that, and I thought it was kind of beautiful.
Yeah, it took, I remember the day when it did hit me, and I think it took about 6 months or so. The day when I saw the wire in my account, the thing is you keep refreshing all day, and you keep refreshing, and you know it's going to make it. And it's also not the first time I did an event. It's just at that magnitude, it was. And once you see it, it's because just your head keeps seeing it so many times. You premeditate this so many times, you don't feel nothing. And it is disappointing because how fun it is to get excited and jump genuinely, but you don't have that. You're like, why? But the good thing is when I did get it, and I don't know if I said this in his podcast, that the thing was, look, so the process of selling the business, my ex and I broke up, but we're in a great relationship. So I never wanted to tell her how much we're going to make until she's going to see it. I want to surprise her. So I always told her it's going to be like 10 million. And she's like, wow, that's amazing. But I didn't tell her the real number. But then eventually but then it took for freaking ever. And I'm like, okay, because it takes 6 months. And eventually, right before we finished, I told her, by the way, do you know how much it's really going to be? And she was like, nah, shut the fuck up. I said, no, for real. And then, and the thing is, we both came from very humble background. She's Dominican. She's Black Dominican. Me also coming from, my mom was a living au pair. I mean, she had to take care of old people. We had no place to live. That was the whole story. So, we're very appreciative, and then we're not kids to blow it away. We're very conservative about how we live and all that. So it was very rewarding to know that we can take care of our families and everything else. But even though we broke up, it was something we did together, right? So when that happened, I didn't feel anything, and she didn't feel anything. I can tell you from looking at her. Just, okay, good. We're going to go home. Maybe you want to get some, I don't know, pasta. Okay, nice. That's it. And then 6 months later, I bought a new house, or maybe more, I think, maybe a year later. No, 6 months later. It was in June 2021. I bought a new house, and I stopped kind of like actively consulting at that point. And I remember I sat down one day. I have the kids on certain days, so when I don't have the kids, I have a couple of days off. And I remember that I just dropped off the kids. I'm like, fuck, this is awesome. I can do it for the rest of my life. And I'm looking at the view, this nice house, and it's just.
Is it the one?
Then it hit me at the new house.
Is it the one we see in your Instagram stories?
Yes, that's
beautiful,
the one.
beautiful.
Yeah, I was like, that's when it hit me. I was like, and the reason it hit me was mainly because I don't have to manage a business. I've been doing this for 18 years, managing a lot of people. And so it's all at once. The money was a piece of it, but it was all at once. That's when you really feel it.
Well,
So-
probably for 18 years too. Like, I mean, each time you get a phone notification, there's probably like this almost like quick little alarm that goes off, and you're like, it could be a crisis, it could be a fire, and then all of a sudden that kind of goes away. It's got to be a
That
strange
underlying stress,
Yeah.
I can tell you that's why we die when we're 50. We die from heart attacks, and we don't know why. Oh, he was such a good man. But why? He was so healthy, he was going to the gym. But the stress, the underlying stress that you have, and you don't even know you have it, because it's critical, and it's your reputation, and it's everything. It's a livelihood. So you put it all online. So it's nice to kind of like pull some cash out of the business. So if everything falls apart, you're not falling apart with it. And you do it throughout the years, and it's all good, but still that responsibility doesn't go away. And that's when you sit down like, I can breathe now. Now I can take a minute before I open the next one and, kill myself from another stress catastrophe or something.
God forbid.
Yeah, God forbid, yeah.
Yeah, I hope not.
Let's hope not.
I've got a bunch of friends that tell me, I'm really trying to get into passive income and drop shipping. And then just like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, good luck with that. And I don't really think they understand.
I mean, as soon as I hear someone said, I want passive income, when you don't have anything other than a day job, that means you're already telling me you're lazy. Build something. Just build something first. Don't talk to me about passive income. I respect the fact that you want passive income, but it would be nice to come from someone that have a lot of cash already, that wants it to work from, and he puts it in place, that get dividends and so on. But if you tell me that, no, I'm making 50,000, 100,000 a year, and now I want passive income, oh shit, I want to have passive income too then. How about that? But then I didn't have to create stuff. I didn't have to break the rules, invent new stuff, just build something, and then you can go and get the privilege of doing that. That's, look, I mean, it's something interesting. Today, everybody wants to be influencers. Today, everybody wants that bling. Everybody wants, because it's so easy. I mean, you look at from Andrew Tate to Dan Bilzerian to all those people that show what they have and what they have achieved. And people take it the wrong way, and they think that, okay, I'm looking at the end results and it's going to be that easy. No, it's not that easy. Today, you're not likely to make money as an influencer unless you're lucky. You are likely to make money if you're a plumber. Actually, you're going to do very good as a plumber. For example, if you look at, go right now to any construction site, you're not going to see young people working over there. It's a dying breed. 2019, at least in Florida, if you wanted a plumber to come and build your infrastructure for plumbing when you develop a house, which that's kind of like more of the high-end plumber, not just someone that comes to go and fix your bathroom when it's clogged. Those people were making $60 an hour. Today, you're going to get 175 if you get one. Right? That's in Florida, maybe some states more than others. Right? The problem is, it's a dying breed. Anything in that, there is no replenishment. It's older people and they get aged more and more. No one wants to do it. That is a secure income that you can do for a couple of years while you're trying to go and build your Instagram. So go make some fucking money. Go fix some toilets. You do 10 hours a day, you make $1,750 a day. That doesn't assume that you have any business skill sets to teach someone. Tell him what to do so you don't get your hands dirty. Pay him a little bit per hour so he does the job for you. I'm not even putting that skill set, okay? Just you do it while you actually go and you shoot some content. And then when you start producing money out of it, then you can maybe put it in your beautiful passive income with the Grant Cardone capital or so on. But in the meantime, you have a job. Anyone can do it. This is easy to learn, but everyone can do it. But no one wants to do it. So if you show me you do it, then I can tell that you're serious. You can get to be somewhere.
What do you think about fame? How do you think it affects people?
Yeah, look, fame is a currency. It affects people. Fame is currency because if I go to a club right now and people know me because I have money and I spend money, I'm going to be treated different. If I'm famous, I get a different treatment. I go in for free, right? I feel like so I have a friend that gave me a really good analogy. He said there's fame, there's money, and then there's fame. He said you get a table in the club, and you have two girls with you with bottles, and then someone famous sits next to you. They're gonna jump going to the other table. So then there's money, then there's fame. It's a different type of currency, and if I look at my life specifically, I don't have fame. I had a company that was a business to consumer, so it was known. So Boxycharm was grossing a little bit less than 500 million. I could have had a mortgage company that has 2 billion a year, and you would know about that. And who are you? All right, so you had a big business, boring, right? So it's like that, right? That's why fame has its value. It opens doors. If you use it wisely, this is a very tricky part. If you use it wisely, you can reach heights. Okay? If you don't, if you look at Napoleon Hill, he became a multimillionaire because of the fame that he had after he went and he started interviewing 25,000 people through being writing books and so on. And that was in 1930 something, 1929. Look, we're talking going forward till today. If you're famous, you can be around people. You had a good tweet where you said, I'm trying to phrase it as good as you did, but it's not going to come out the same. I'm going to butcher it. But you said, your actual network, your value of your network is your kind of like not how you can go into parties or clubs. It's more about what offers do you get from VCs. Kind of like, are they including you in rounds? This is how I know what is the currency that you have, and that is very, very
Meaning
true.
they want you on their cap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So that is fame, right? So even if it's a business type fame, but it's fame. So fame can be very tricky. You can lose yourself to it, but if you use it smart and you don't let it get to your head, it's a very good tool, and it's nothing like different currency.
Naval has an interesting quote where he goes, "You really want to be rich and anonymous because fame has a cost to it too."
It's not for everybody.
No, it's
It's
not.
not
Who
for
is it
everybody.
not for?
It's for the weak. For the weak, people that had some, I would say, something in their childhood that they have to prove, right? If you're having that type of insecurity and you couldn't get over it, because we all have stuff in our childhood, right? But if you have that insecurity still in you and you feel like you have to brag and to flash it, and eventually it goes away, you're going to be left without, and then you get it. Basically, it's a drop. A drop is kind of like a cocaine that drops and you need more of it. And that's where it gets to be tricky. Now, for safety, obviously, it might mean that for safety, it's nice that nobody knows what you have. But I can say that there is value if you know how to use it and you're strong, if you're mentally strong. Look, if you look at Kabbalah, right? And by no means I am not religious or anything like that. But when you go to Kabbalah, and perhaps not the Kabbalah Center over here, but just more like the real Orthodox Jews that actually study the Zohar and Kabbalah, they're saying you have to be studying the regular, they call it pshat, the simplicity part of the Bible, where the basic laws, and you have to be at the age of 40 or 50 until you actually go to the next step, because it can get you crazy. There's a reason to it, right? And it's the same with fame. It's definitely not going to be for kids. Tell me, hey, do you want your kids to be? I'm like, fuck no. I don't want my kids to be. I want them to have normal child, because they can't process that. Too much input of people coming to you, you need to be mature. You need to know how to manage that. And you need to be kind of like to move from being a receptive to kind of like a filter. You have to know how to perform a filter. Men, for example, if you look at men have a problem when, if they get a fame, too much input of women, you don't have a filter, you're a man. Why do you need to have, at first at least? Right? And then you can't go and truly enjoy a relationship, because you have too much input. So every time what about this one? I have to say hi to this. You don't know how to do it, right? Women are different. Women can filter. All the input is no matter what. They're pretty. There's tons of input, so they know how to filter. They're much more mature. They're stronger in that regard. Maybe in others they don't. So that's what femme does to you.
That's a really good distinction between men and women.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question that I ask everybody on this podcast. It's my favorite question. So I feel like everybody has a lot of advice to give and messages. You shared many on this podcast, but I feel like people have a hard time putting in order what's most important. Like what's the most important message you have that you feel like needs to be most urgently shared, right? But I came up with a scenario that helps people come to what it is, realize what that message is. Here's the scenario. You're going to have to envision it. Okay. So you're at the Oscars for, let's say you're nominated for a documentary about.
No, best actor. It was a sex scene, and it's a best actor.
Okay, you're nominated for best actor for sex scene, but you also have a documentary out about entrepreneurship, and it's crushing it. So you're in both categories. Anyway, you win one of the awards. They call your name. You walk to the stage. You get up there. You thank everybody who was involved in the production. The actress who was sleeping with you. Or, the other entrepreneurs who are in your film, your family, your ex-wife, everybody that has impacted your life and brought you to this moment. And then there's that 45 seconds to a minute, and then they start playing that music that tells you need to wrap it up. In that 45 seconds, what message would you want to share to the whole world? And keep in mind, it's going to be on YouTube forever. People are going to be sending it to each other. There are going to be headlines in the news about what you said. It's going to be a moment. What do you say?
Well, I probably would have had more time to think, but I feel like if I'm not going to tell you exactly what I'm going to say, I would just frame the commonality of whatever I'm going to say.
Okay.
It has to be very, very short and sticky, because otherwise it's one ear out the other, and it's not going to be, let's save the world and the penguins, because that's what they always hear.
Right.
So it has to be different, and it has to be short. And the reason is, every time when you speak to the masses, the message has to be short. If you think of a billboard, no more than 7 words in order for it to stick. If you have something longer, you start losing audience. If you want it to stick to everybody and you want it to go viral, it needs to be something that no one else said, doesn't get you in trouble, and it needs to be short.
Wow, thinking like answering that question like a
That was brilliant.
genius marketer.
That's what it is. Yeah.
I want to hear your answer when you're ready. You don't
When I
have
have
to
something
say, you don't
to-
have to say it right now, but
Yeah. Right now, I don't have a necessity to change anything. By then, I might. It might be anything else. So whatever is going to be the most important for me at that time, I'll think of how to phrase it in
Yeah.
a way that's going to be catchy, memorable, and short.
so you already think you're going to win something at the Oscars, just to be clear.
Yeah, and if not, I'll bribe them. I'll buy my way, or I have to get one. Now, when you brought it up, I'll have to.
Now
come
you
up
need
with
it. You're
yeah.
going to do the whole. You're going to do the whole visualization exercise.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's actually so talking about companies. When kind of like one tip is that and I've seen this in different ways. I've seen how it gets done the wrong way and the right way. If you have meetings, I'm always advocating for as little meetings as possible, corporate meetings, and to have as little amount of people. Just get the important ones. Usually you'll see a meeting and you'll see how many people are actually speaking. Out of 90 people, you can have 2-3 people speaking. Get the rest back to work. They don't need to be there. But ultimately, if there is a message when you speak to everybody, it needs to be very short. It's much more detailed when you speak to a smaller group of people of a specific type of job. So if I speak right now to my social media team, and it's only about TikTok and going viral, okay, we'll sit down and we'll dive into it, and it's specific, and we'll talk about that. But if I have a message for thousands of employees or hundreds of employees, it needs to be very, very short, so they'll think about this when they leave the room. And it needs to be 1-2 things. What is the most important 1 or 2 things I need to tell them in this meeting? More than that, it's just take out. Now, in reality, when you sit down and you ask yourself how to make the right decisions in a business, so you can win, so you can make more right decisions than the other person. The idea is that, okay, what's the most urgent and what's the important ones? You go with that. It's like you need to think of 4 squares: urgent, important, not urgent, not important, and where is it in between when you have to put it, right? And then there are some things that And then you listen to people, and a lot of things are just not important and not urgent. Move it aside. But you need to start with the urgent, right? Then you move to the important one, right? And that's how you function better with your meetings and as an organization. So that comes down to what delivery, right, that you want to give. So that's why when you said urgent and important, it really hit the nail on the head, because for me it was always critical to say urgent and important. In Boxycharm, we had 1 hour a week corporate meeting. It was stand-up meeting. We all had to catch up. It was very important because we needed to know what's delayed, what's not delayed, to connect all that. But it was kind of like a process to make sure that we get to the optimal part, how we can use that 1 hour properly, so we don't do too long or missing out parts that are important over there. And it took us a minute, because you'll listen to people talking and say, wait, that's not for this meeting. If you want to go and tell us about this thing you tried and didn't work out, we don't need to hear it, because it didn't work out. Why talking about this? Not in front of this one. There's other, not on this meeting. So we had to improve it, and then eventually we perfect that 1 hour meeting. And then the rest of the business was just functioning with more tactical meetings. Those are the meetings you want to have throughout the day.
I love the box thing.
Yeah.
That's a great way to make decisions. How urgent and important is this problem?
Yeah, so this is something I took actually from EO, Entrepreneur Organization, where you have meetings. You ask yourself, we would ask that question about everything. We would say, how important and urgent is it? And we would also say there are some things that you don't say in this form. You can say it in a bar. You can say it in this meeting. We only say the 5%. We would have meetings between entrepreneurs that run companies, and we'd say, in our meetings, you have to say only what's absolutely important. If it's not important, don't say it. What is important? So you would say, well, you have 100% of the day with a bunch of events that happen, but there's 5% you don't talk about because it's just not important. All right? There's 5% you don't talk to anyone about because it's that private. That's what we want to talk to you about. In that meeting, once a month, when all of us would sit down, it's a peer of 8 people, or 6 in my case, you need to talk about the 5% you don't talk to anyone about. And if you don't have anything to say, it's okay, because someone else might. So just let us know. I have only one thing to tell you. And we would go family, business, friends, and it was actually helping us. And then eventually I take it to the business because it can make meetings more efficient.
Wow, Jacob, you got that?
That's brilliant.
All right, Yosef, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to re-listen to this podcast for my own business.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Today's episode of Beyond is brought to you by MoonPay. MoonPay is your portal to Web3 where you can transact with peers globally and own your digital identity. MoonPay makes it fast and simple to jumpstart your Web3 journey. Quickly use your debit or credit card to buy and sell crypto and purchase digital collectibles. Visit moonpay.com to get started.